Welcome to the Startup Grind.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mike. I am the co-founder of Benjamin's Desk. I'm also the Philadelphia chapter director for Startup Grind. So Startup Grind is a global meetup. We're currently in over 50 cities in 20 countries globally. And it's a series of fireside chat interviews, founders by founders. And we get a chance to dive deep so we can all educate and get inspired and connect with other folks. So the main mission for tonight is if you haven't met someone that you don't know, get a business card. Find someone that you haven't met with. Potentially find these two people over here. Potentially find your next co-founder. So we love this idea of getting educated from a speaker, learning from their experiences, and then also being inspired to possibly get off the bench and go do whatever it is you want to do, and then finally connecting with other people. Where you're at, Benjamin's Desk, is a very unique place. We are building the epicenter of innovation here in Philly, and the way we do that is more than just these events. We have a co-working space on the 7th floor. It's designed for mobile professionals, entrepreneurs, and startups. We provide them with their home base, their first base, if you will, and shared resources to help them launch, to help them grow, to get where they need to go, essentially. So part of building this epicenter here in Philly, it's about co-working, it's about capital, it's about people. We have awesome, innovative companies like two of our members, Ian and Manish, who are sitting here in front of me today. It's about partners. We have Wayne Kimball and Chad Stender from 76 Capital. My very good friend Shelton Mercer from TwitChange is here as well. So putting all those things and all those people in a very, very small place, awesome things can happen. New businesses are created. New businesses are funded. New businesses grow. New businesses sell. And that's what we're about here at Benjamin's Desk. And part of being an epicenter is about bringing the best of breed meetups. Startup Grind is one of those meetups. I just saw a friend of mine in the back too, Greg from Comcast. We'll be announcing some really, really cool stuff with Comcast shortly, but they're going to be a true partner in every sense of the word. So let's get right to it. Actually, some quick admin for Startup Grind. Anybody that showed up tonight should have got a comp code for Bob Dorff. On November 18th, Bob's coming to Philadelphia to speak at Wharton. He'll also be speaking here. And if you have a startup or you're thinking about launching a startup and you don't know who Bob Dorff is, then you need to go find out when you leave here who Bob is. And then use your free comp code to come and listen to Bob during his fireside chat interview. Bob is the co-author of the Startup Owner's Manual along with Steve Blank. He's one of the top 5 resident experts in the world on lean customer development, and just an awesome person that you should come see. So everyone should have got a comp code. We also have Mike Harris from Zonoff, December 4th. Mike's a serial entrepreneur. He's on his 5th startup, 2 exits, an IPO. Just a really, really smart guy that knows how to take an idea from start to finish and sell it or go public. So I encourage you to come on back out. Just to get a pulse real fast, I know we have some college students here. Raise your hand if you're a college student. That's awesome. That really gets me pumped up seeing college students here at Startup Grind. And it's a big initiative from the entire Benjamin's Desk team to get more and more college students into this environment at an early on. So young Jin, thank you so much for playing a role in getting your class here. You guys are going to learn so much. This is real learning. This is higher ed. This is graduate school. You come and you get to listen to someone like Jen Groover tonight. You're going to hear so much stuff of the real world, the passions, the pain, all the stuff you got to go through to be a successful entrepreneur. So kudos for you guys for being here, and thank you. So Jen Groover. Jen is a serial entrepreneur. She's an author. She's a spokesperson. She's been called a one-woman brand. She's a TV personality. She just had a spectacular episode on PBS, which has gotten rave reviews. And she's just, oh yeah, she's a mother too. Jen has 2 twin little girls, so imagine doing all the stuff that she does and being an active mother. She's also a very good friend of mine. I'm truly lucky to be interviewing her tonight. I think everyone's going to learn a lot about her. You'll hear about the evolution of an entrepreneur that can start in one area and not be pigeonholed and find themselves in all these other areas and be successful. So without further ado, I'd like everyone to stand up if you would and just give Jen a warm welcome from Benjamin's Desk and Startup Grind. So I'm going to start doing something new here. This is, before I dive into the interview, I mean, this is your mic, this is your show. I kind of set the stage for who you are, but if you want to know who's in the audience, we got some really, really cool people, some young people. Feel free to say a few words.
Well, no matter where I go, before I speak, I always like to acknowledge that there are a million places that everybody could be right now, and I'm fully aware of that. And so, number one, I'm not offended when people are tweeting and Facebooking. I encourage that. But I'd like to thank everyone and acknowledge everyone for being here and being present here. And so my commitment in that space is to give you 1,000% of myself. So when you leave here tonight, you say, thank God I spent my hour, 2 or 3 hours here, so that you can walk away with nuggets of wisdom to apply to your life tomorrow that are life-changing for the rest of your life.
Congratulations on the PBS special.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I manifested that one about 4 years ago.
Tell us about that. I just watched it today, and I was just super impressed.
Well, I'm going to start with a belief system that I live by, and I believe your thoughts create a reality. My childhood does not, by any means, predict where I am today. As a matter of fact, it would predict me being against where I am today. And my thoughts have always been positive growing up, even when I was through adversity, throughout my childhood, throughout my youth. And I believe that when you think positive thoughts, and not just positive thoughts, but believe that you're worth whatever you want and desire in your life, you're capable to achieve it. Without that, number one, belief in yourself and the worth in yourself, you struggle to achieve things. And so when I believe in what I want, and I know that I'm worth what I want, it magically appears. And the PBS special is one of those things. That doesn't go to say that there's not a ton of hard work in place to achieve my goals. But your thoughts are energy. It's quantum physics. I know a lot of people hear about The Secret, and the people who wrote The Secret were my mentors 13 years ago. And it's not just something that's woo-woo. It's quantum physics, and it's something that's really important that I teach people as a foundation of their success from day one. The PBS special actually came when my daughters were 4 years old. They were watching Dora or something on PBS, and they were playing, and they walked out of the room, and the TV was still on, it's just background noise, and I looked up, and Robert Kiyosaki's PBS special was on, and I read
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, good book.
Amazing series of books. And I had read pretty much every one of Robert Kiyosaki's books. And I sat down and I looked up and I watched him speaking and basically bringing his philosophies through life through speaking, which was my favorite thing to do already, but then through the medium of television, a whole different gamut. And then through the platform of PBS, which people trust so strongly in. And I thought to myself, I want my own PBS special. I have no idea what it's going to be. Doesn't everyone think that? I want my own PBS special, and it was just normal to me. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know how I'm going to get it. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what I'm talking about. But what I did do is envision myself as Robert on stage, speaking to myself in my living room, and feeling the emotion of what that was, feeling the emotion of that success. And what I did ever since that day was worked on being the best version of myself, worked on living to my highest potential every single day. So whenever that opportunity presented itself, I was then ready to share wisdom that would be worthwhile to be on that platform. I never spoke of that wish or dream to anyone. Literally no one. Because as I thought it and I sat in my chair, my 4-year-old twins, who are now 9, came running into the room, and I forgot it as quick as I thought about it. Never told an agent, nobody. About 2.5 years ago, I got a phone call from a guy who said, "Hi Jen, I'm Richard Taylor. I'm an executive producer for PBS. We are looking for a female Wayne Dyer meets Robert Kiyosaki, and we heard that's you." And I said, "Oh my God, I've never defined myself that way, but I love that." And he said, "Well, we got a recommendation from somebody else, And we heard that you are a mixture of wisdom in a very philosophical way meets practical technical skills. And I said, well, the craziest thing is I actually envisioned this years ago. And he said, and I told him the story about Robert Kiyosaki, and he said, you did an amazing job because I was the executive producer of Robert's PBS special as well. I came to find out that only 5 other people had done a PBS special like mine. Wayne Dyer, Robert Kiyosaki, obviously, Susie Orman, Deepak Chopra, and myself. I had better chances of winning the Powerball. Truly.
I think everyone pictures some type of cookie cutter pipe dream of what an entrepreneur is, or when you had this revelation, so I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Do you have like a time and space where you said, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur?
I think it was in 1st grade when I got tied to my chair by Sister Elizabeth from roaming around the room. And I say that because most entrepreneurs aren't traditional students, and we struggle to stay in a space that's confined by subjects and confined by rules that lack collaboration and communication with our peers. And so in 1st grade, I literally got tied to my chair by Sister Elizabeth from roaming around the room. And I was just trying to connect with other people. And when I got to school, I was tied until my mom came to pick me up. And Sister Elizabeth thought I was going to get into a lot of trouble. Well, my mom was an entrepreneur, so my mom actually got what I was doing. And I was left-handed, by the way. Any lefties in the room? Right, so we bucked the system even more. So my mom wasn't mad. My mom actually was upset that I wasn't following the rules, but she also understood that the rules weren't made for everyone to be followed. And so she'd fostered a lot of that in me. And I worked for my dad for a summer growing up. I thought I wanted to be an attorney. I affirmed for myself that I absolutely did not want to do that for the rest of my life. And I had this issue with somebody telling me that I could only grow as fast as they said I could grow, that they would only review me when they wanted to review me, because I knew that everything that I did 1,000%. And so when I graduated college, I couldn't even fathom going to work for somebody else. And I had jobs through high school and college. The second I turned 14, my dad was like, go get a job right now, which was a wonderful thing, and I'm blessed for that experience. But I knew that I would rather make less money and be doing something that I was passionate about at the pace that I wanted to grow than getting a job and working for somebody else and feeling stifled in my own personal growth. So that's really my journey began right out of college, is when I started my first business.
Every entrepreneur dreams of seeing their consumer product, brought to market. Can you walk us through the genesis of Butler Bag and what that was like for you? Actually, did someone have a Butler Bag? Do we have a Butler Bag? Can we raise one up so everyone knows what it is? Put an eye on target here. Someone brought a Butler Bag.
Right, so
that is the original Butler Bag.
There's a story behind this one. Oh, wait. Okay, so there's a story. I had 3 Butler Bags when you were still selling direct on your website. My house burned down in April, and I lost everything. And one of the first things I had to replace was my Butler Bag, because I could not stand the lack of organization. I found 3 on eBay.
Tragic, but awesome at the same time. Oh my gosh. You went for a Butler Bag first. If that's not a testament of a product that you like.
The tagline of the company was "Every girl needs a butler." A testament right there. Well, before I get there, I probably, in all fairness, should back up, because when I said I started my first business out of college, it was in the fitness industry. When I was in college, well, when I was in high school, I was an athlete. I played soccer and basketball and track. I was in the Junior Olympics for track, and I was really passionate about fitness, the psychology of fitness. And so when I was in college, I went home one semester, and step aerobics, I'm dating myself right now, step aerobics had just started. And I was like, this is awesome. I'm dancing and working out at the same exact time. It doesn't even feel like I worked out. And so I went back to where I went to school, Kutztown University, and I said, I need 100 steps, I need a gym, a boombox, literally a boombox, I got my own cassette tape, and I needed to start a class. And that was the first group fitness class at Kutztown University. Within the first week, we had 100 of those steps filled. I had my boombox and cassette player in a gym with the worst acoustics in the world. And I forgot to ask for the most important thing, which is why my voice is raspy today, which was a microphone. So I learned a quick lesson in making sure that you think well in advance of what you might need. So when I graduated college, my degree was in education and psychology. My dad was of that belief system that whatever you get your degree in, you must do for the rest of your life. So I had no intention ever of being a school teacher in a traditional sense, but to appease my father and his expectations and that guilt factor that comes along with it, I became a teacher for half of a semester, half of a school year, a kindergarten teacher who left for maternity leave. And I affirmed in that moment that I absolutely never wanted to do that ever, and God bless the people that have the patience to be kindergarten teachers, which is why I think God gave me twins later on to teach me that lesson. But I learned something really valuable at that time. I would drive to school every single day, feeling sick to my stomach, thinking, maybe I could just get in a car accident and just a fender bender, so I have a legitimate reason to be late for work today. And I realized I'm wishing ill will on myself to miss an hour of work. This cannot be what I'm going to feel like for the rest of my life. And I started to listen to a lot of my colleagues and people in other spheres, and they felt the same way about work. And I was like, this cannot be living. This cannot be why we're all here, to feel this sick, disgusting feeling every single day. So after that school year ended, I went to my father and I said, I'm done. I tried it. I proved to myself that this is not what I want, and I'm going into the fitness industry. Now, the fitness industry then, in 1996, was not what the fitness industry is today. It was just beginning. And step aerobics was still new on the scene, and as I mentioned, that was my passion. I actually had no idea how I was going to make money. I had no idea how I was going to build a business, but once I committed to it, all the people and opportunities showed up for me. I met this guy, or ran into this guy who I knew from high school, who had started a business in Wilmington, Delaware, doing personal training, who wanted to start an aerobic studio in his personal training business. I partnered with him, and that began my first business. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to make money. I had no idea how to run a company, but I knew that I was passionate about what I was doing. The next big thing that happened was I tried out for Reebok on the aerobics performance team and made it, and became one of the pioneers for that step aerobics fitness trend that I passionately fell in love with in college, and learned from Reebok also how to do trend forecasting, not just in the fitness industry, but every industry. And there I was, realizing that I was living within my state of passion, feeling excited every day going to work, thinking, when is this going to end? When are they going to find me out? I'm actually making money doing what I love. This can't be. This is impossible, because everyone else is miserable. And I learned in that moment that that is exactly how life is supposed to be. And I had colleagues, friends at the time who were pharmaceutical reps, when pharmaceutical reps at that time, as an example, were in their heyday, making tons of money, budgets and expenses out the wazoo, the company car, every single night, entertaining. And there were moments where I was like, what the heck am I doing? What, they're doing all that stuff and they have all this freedom, finances. But the thought of leaving where I was and that passion was impossible to me. And so, at 26 years of age, from overtraining, overworking, living the East Coast and the West Coast, trying to do it all, I got oxidative stress from overtraining and overworking. Oxidative stress is basically when you overtrain and you don't sleep enough and you're not taking enough antioxidants to actually break down the lactic acid in your body, and it begins to attack your organs. Which for me, it started to attack my heart, my kidneys, my liver, my thyroid, pretty much everything that you really need to live. It was an incredible moment because it stopped me dead in my tracks. I couldn't pretend. And at 26 years of age, I had an experience that most people don't have until they're in their 40s or 50s, where they're like, why am I here? And how am I going to go to the next chapter? And I began my next chapter at 26 years of age. I had to figure out, I had 20 employees at the time, 20 people who relied on me for their paychecks. And I had to figure out what I was really passionate about. And I realized in that moment, why I got into the fitness industry was to inspire and empower people. But this is a huge life lesson I'm about to share with you. While I got on the path for the right reason, I got off the path as well. I started to get caught up in my body fat content defining who I was and the size of my clothes. I got caught up in the entire scene of the fitness industry, which at that time was a scene, complete scene. And I started getting off of the real reason of why I became who I was or why I was doing what I was doing. And it was the greatest gift in the world to become sick at that time because it got me back on track. And so as I share this story, I get floods of people after every speaking engagement, of people coming up and sharing similar life experiences that happen with them. Or maybe I hear from them years later when they realize that all their roadblocks kept coming up because they were off path, doing the wrong things. And so I got back on path. I realized my real reason of getting in the fitness industry was because I was passionate about inspiring and empowering people, not about my body fat content or filling my ego for how ripped I could get for a contest. And so with that, I started to help other women start their businesses. Many of them were clients of mine in the fitness industry. Many of them became multi-million-dollar businesses on QVC, strictly out of passion. And being in that space, I got to see people take their widgets and turn them into multi-million-dollar ideas, and they were just like me. They were people that weren't that great in school. There were people who had trouble conforming to authority, and there were people who beat to their own drum. And so all those seeds were planted for me. You become the people you surround yourself with. So I was surrounding myself with people who were making millions of dollars, taking their ideas and turning them into something. And so how I got into the product world was really haphazardly. I had an idea journal, seriously this big. I would write my ideas in it over and over and over again. And then I'd watch my ideas come to life through everybody else but myself. And my daughters were newborns at the time, and I literally was sitting on my front porch on a rocking chair, I kid you not, I know it's so metaphoric, and I was reading Inc. magazine, and I was reading about a company who had the same exact idea that I had that was in my idea journal, and I thought to myself, wait, they stole my idea, that's my idea. And then I was like, except for it's their idea because they actually did it. And then it hit me, am I gonna sit at the end of my life and say to my daughters, I woulda, shoulda, coulda, I was really smart too, look at my idea journal, I just didn't have the courage to do what everybody else did. And then motivated me to figure out what was holding me back from playing big. And I know it seemed to other people that I already was playing big, but I was actually playing small. I'm a Marine right here, but my dad was a Marine. He was a drill sergeant in the Marines, and he had the mantra, failure is not an option. So what that mantra can actually do is teach you to not do something that you might fail at as a child. For me, I did everything that I was innately good at because failure wasn't an option. So if I failed, I felt like I was going to be in big trouble. So what was holding me back was my fear of failure, like a death fear of failure. And so I continued to only do good things that I was going to naturally good at. In that moment, when I thought about how I was going to explain to my daughters that they could do and be anything that they wanted, except I wasn't walking that walk, I came up with a mantra that changed my life. And it was, I have more fear of regret than I have of failure. And I said that mantra to myself over and over and over again. I have more fear of regret than I have of failure, until it became who I am. And to this day, I don't ever think about fear of doing anything. If there's a moment where I actually get scared, I'm like, yeah, I'm right on track. This is huge, this is scary, this is great. But that mantra set me free to really explore life in a very different way. Just a few months after that, I was in the grocery store with my daughters I put their car seats down as I was in an express lane. As I put their car seats down, by the way, those are pretty heavy car seats for those of you who are parents, you understand, right? 2 at once. I'm in an express lane and I'm going to pay and I can't find my credit card. And as this is happening, both of them begin wailing, high-pitched crying at the same exact time. So now I'm panicking, I'm freaking out, I'm holding up all these people, I'm like, oh my God, these people want to kill me. They're so aggravated with me, I can see them rolling their eyes. I dump my bag out in front of the cashier, and I think to myself, I cannot believe, as far as innovation has come in this society, that women do not complain that we have a bucket for a handbag. Literally, I could put lining, water, a mop, and it's a bucket. And no one's complaining about this. And so my mom had a mantra, you're not allowed to complain about something unless you're going to do something about it. You lose all rights and privileges to complain about something unless you're going to back it up with a solution. I did not like it as a child, but I will say it was one of the greatest things that she could have done for me because it made me solution driven. So now I innovate at a rapid fire pace because every time I complain about something in my head, I create a solution for it instantly, innately. So I was leaving that day and I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. I can't even draw, not even a stick figure. Not really good at math and science. I was really good at networking one-on-one, and I'm not sure how that's going to help me right now. Well, as an entrepreneur, that's the #1 thing you can be good at. And I still hadn't embraced that at the time. And I shelved my idea because I didn't believe I was capable of bringing this to fruition. 6 months after that night, I was unloading my dishwasher. I had the bird's eye view of the knives, forks, and spoons, and I was looking over it, and I thought, that's exactly how I want everything in my handbag to be, standing up straight, just like those utensils. So like every sleep-deprived new mom would do, I took the dishwasher tray out of my dishwasher, and I stuck it in my handbag, and that became my first prototype. And I ran around to all my friends that I trusted, and I said, look what I created. And I literally showed them. I didn't say a word.
Minimum viable product for you tech startup entrepreneurs right there.
Yes, right. Didn't say anything. They all said, either A, come on, someone's had a thought of that, or B, how did I not think of that? That's the Post-it note theory. If you can show somebody and not say a word, then you have a winning product. And I learned a lot about all that at QVC, launching all these other companies too. So I knew at that moment that I had a viable product. I had no idea how to get it from A to on the product, on the shelves. I just began using my networking one-on-one skills and kept asking people for advice and guidance, which was really hard for me to do. And I think that's hard for a lot of people, especially women, to ask for help. And I just kept going on a path. I had no idea where I was going. I used my own capital, family and friends, and I went to people in the industry as my prototype and concept got further along. Every single person in the industry, by the way, this is no slight to men because you know I love guys, right? And most of my colleagues that I work with day to day are guys. However, what most of you women don't realize is most of your fashion purchases are coming out of the decision of men. That's correct. Your pantyhose, your purses, and everything in between. So I would show this to all the guys, and they'd say, women do not want function, they only want fashion. And I was like, well, I'm a woman, and I want it, and my friends do. What do you mean? They're like, we tried it, it failed. And I said, well, maybe you didn't try it the right way. Maybe it needed to be done differently. Maybe it was the wrong time. So basically they all said no. Finally, the last guy that I went to, who owned the license for Calvin Klein, Tari, Vera Wang, really big names. I was really intimidated by him. He had $1 billion company at the time. And I said to him, instead of defending my idea, I said to him, what if, just entertain this crazy thought for 1 second, what if women did want an organized and fashionable handbag, and you said no, and your competitor said yes, and it changes the entire industry, then how do you feel? And as he entertained that thought, he was like, whoa, wait a second. Because what I got him to do was see possibility. I got him to see, without pushing it and shoving it down his throat, I got him to see what that would look like. It's very much like how Mark Burnett got Survivor on television, which is a great correlation story to share in a room full of entrepreneurs. Mark Burnett pitched Survivor at least a dozen times, 3 of them to Les Moonves, who was the president of CBS, which it later went on CBS. Les Moonves turned him down all those times until Mark Burnett sent Les Moonves a picture of him and Les self-posed on the front cover of Time magazine with the title that said, "Survivor changes the face of television," and they're arm in arm holding Emmys on the front cover of Time. Les saw that, and that's when Les said yes.
Wow.
Sure enough, Survivor changed the face of television, many Emmys, and that was probably one of the biggest wins that Les had during his entire career. So, and obviously the rest is history for Mark Burnett, but the thing is when you're innovating, people are going to constantly tell you no. I knew deep down inside that this was something that was viable, that people wanted, and I pursued it. After I said what if to him, he changed his mind. I did a licensing deal with him a few months later. My company was only 18 months young at the time, which is unheard of. I did my licensing deal the same day as Vera Wang and Karl Lagerfeld, which was unprecedented. And really just kind of, in the first year, I bootstrapped myself. I got into the shelves of boutiques over 600 boutiques all over the United States and other countries. I used media and PR as my #1 strategy. I never bought an ad ever, never went to a trade show. Got it to $1 million in the first year, got it to $10 million in the second year. As that 18-month mark was halfway through that second, is when I ramped up to knock myself off literally at every price point. I couldn't do that myself, but with this licensing partner I could.
It's actually an interesting segue. I'm always fascinated with the idea of the evolution of an entrepreneur. Take Jay-Z, for example, and maybe you guys might not think of him as an entrepreneur, but he is. And he's been able to reinvent himself in unique ways, but in ways that it's really genuine. And you've been able to do that, to reinvent yourself from fitness to product to the things you're working on today with Empowered. All in an authentic way. Talk to me a little bit about that idea.
Right. So Jay-Z is an awesome example. I love Jay-Z because one of the things that he's been able to do is he's a mogul, and he's built his empire on being authentic. And he's somebody I've definitely looked to through my journey. Now, I'm an Aries and ADD, so it's like a double whammy. So when I set out to do something, I sprint to get it to a certain level. And then once I conquer that level, I'm kind of on to the next thing. So I have an exit strategy in my head of like where this is going to go and then how I'm going to parlay that to the next thing. I didn't want to be in the butler bag business forever. I knew that from day one. I knew I wanted to get it to a certain point, and I wanted to license it so that I could have mailbox money, hopefully for the rest of my life, or at least a couple decades, out of this technology. Licensing to me is, as a creator and an innovator, one of the best strategies that you can use. So I knew once I mastered something that I could license, then I could continue to do the licensing strategy. Because once you have a big win like that, and then you go to somebody and you say, I have an idea, they're like, oh, okay, tell us your idea, versus all the closed doors that originally happened in the beginning. Motivational speaking was always my favorite thing. I did it when I was in the fitness industry. And so when I had the Butler Bag Company, it just allowed me to shift and expand in the things that I was talking about. So I wasn't just talking about fitness as I was originally. Now I was talking about the psychology of success. I was talking about building your business. I was talking about building your brands. I kept expanding what I was talking about. And so during that time period, I had a really big article, a 6-page article in Success Magazine. And from that 6-page article, I had publishers coming out of the woodwork to write a story or to help me write a book. And so that really opened the floodgate. Now, by the way, I had the vision of writing a book back in 2000. Once again, just like the PBS special, I had no idea what it was going to be. I had no idea what the content was. In all reality, it would have been about fitness at that time. But I knew that I wanted to be a New York Times bestselling author, and I knew that that was going to happen, I just didn't know how. And so when that opportunity came to fruition, so did all these TV experiences, going on as an expert in business and lifestyle. And I had already had my experience with QVC and some television stuff, and I knew that that's really an amazing platform that I love to share my ideas and visions with. And by the way, when I was a child, my mom had a TV show. And when I went on her TV show as a kid commentator, I got made fun of by kids in my classroom because kids do that. So I quit. And my mom begged me, please don't quit, please don't quit. And I said, no, I don't want to do this. And she was like, Jenny, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm like, I am uncomfortable every day, going to school, in my uniform, like I'm good, like I don't need to push it further. So I quit, and I had this major, major phobia of public speaking and television. During that time period, I knew, before the Butler bag, I knew I wasn't going to achieve the level of success that I wanted to achieve. I did not face those fears. And so facing television and public speaking obviously is showing you, just being here today, so much of my life is on both of those platforms. But a true evolution of an entrepreneur, to directly answer your question, is being authentic to who you are. Entrepreneurs are on a journey of self-transformation. If you're not on a journey of self-transformation, you're going to be way off the mark from being as successful as you can be. And what I mean on a journey of self-transformation is, as an entrepreneur, to be successful, you have to look at yourself in the mirror every single day and call yourself out on all your weaknesses and all your strengths, and find the people to fill the gaps of all your weaknesses, and challenge yourself to constantly grow and evolve every single day. And that is truly how you become successful, is when you work on yourself. The most successful entrepreneurs work on themselves more than their businesses, and their own personal growth and their human capital. And so I really dove into that journey of calling myself out on everything. And there were times like I was being successful in an effortless way, but I knew to get to the next level, like in a hot air balloon, you gotta let go of some of the sandbags holding you down. And so that was my own personal growth. That was my own awareness of myself. And just being authentic. I share when I do motivational speaking, not so much today, but if I'm talking about being empowered or just my personal journey, I share all the details of my childhood, which I never did before. I share the struggles that I witnessed from my mother and through my father, and just being authentic has really skyrocketed my career. And the more authentic I would be, the more comfortable I would be in my own skin being authentic, and the more people are attracted to you and want to help you and want to support you. And authenticity is probably one of the #1 foundations of being successful.
Here's like a three-tiered question, but I think they're intertwined. I hate to use the words female entrepreneur because I don't like to pigeonhole, females. They're just entrepreneurs. They just happen to be a female. The reality is that there aren't as many female entrepreneurs as I think there should be. You being a female entrepreneur, being a mother, and also being a role model. Talk to me a little about how you juggle that, how you rectify that in your mind. Do you feel an onus on yourself to empower females beyond what they think they may be able to do?
So the truth of the matter is, females start businesses 3.5 to 1 to men. That's astounding. 3.5 to 1 to men. Why females are not as celebrated or have as much of a platform and a voice is because their ambitions behind starting a business are either based on having the flexibility of balancing their family life better and not having to be in an office, or, and this is the biggest thing of why I empower women, women still undervalue their worth in a financial sense. And so when women start a business, they think, I just hope it's $100,000. They're not usually coming out of the gate saying, I want this to be $100 million, where most men will. There is still I go in and out of corporations constantly. There's definitely women still holding women back scenario happening. And I speak vocally about it because there are solutions to it, and I support the solution to it. Even in the entrepreneur space, I find women are so supportive. But when you're a woman in the entrepreneur space and you come out and say, I want to be a mogul, you're judged differently. I know that I am. I'm in interviews, and when people say, what do you want? And I say, I want to be a mogul. I want to be like Jay-Z. I see women interviewing me like, who she is. And I will call them out in a very respectful way, and I'll say, and the way that you all just looked at me, and I read your body languages, why Oprah is one of the only moguls that exists today for females as a role model. Well, there are so many more men killing it in the entrepreneurial space. So there has to be a paradigm shift that I speak vocally about. I keep mentioning my childhood, but so you get an example of why I'm so passionate about this. When I was a child, my father left us and left my mom, who was a strong, powerful woman. And when he left my mom with $400 on the table. And although she made money, women at that time made like $13,000 at a cap. And my dad controlled all the finances. So when he left, the stress of him leaving destroyed her physically, mentally, and emotionally. She became a mess, this strong, powerful woman, to the point where she had a massive stroke a year later. And financially struggled to provide for us, even to go to the grocery store and get Oreos for our snack at lunchtime. And the struggle that I watched, the pain that I watched in this powerful woman's face, made me have a contract that I committed to that day that I didn't even realize, which was, I will never allow someone to control my finances or happiness. And so I set out speaking to not just empower all entrepreneurs, which I do, but specifically women entrepreneurs, in a way that allows them to see their worth in a space that women have not yet owned. Their capability to be in a place that they have not yet owned. And so Empowered for Purpose is intimately connected to that, to say, I've built my platform, and all my friends, my power posse, they've built their platform. Now we collectively are going to come together and help millions of women build their platform.
That's awesome. The PBS special, I think, is just the beginning for you. Word on the street is there may be a technology product. I know you're kind of in stealth mode. Can you share anything about that with us?
Yeah, so Empowered, so how I got to the brand Empowered is actually funny. And there's a huge life lesson in this one too. My business partners in the Butler Bag company started to steal from me, and I didn't know. And I found out through Avon, who was one of my licensing partners at the time. And I was devastated by this experience, more so from like a personal betrayal. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, God, apparently I'm on the wrong path, and you need me to get onto a different path again. So just show me what it is. I'm open to what it is. Shortly thereafter, I got a phone call from a guy who I'd been friends with for years but hadn't seen in years, who was one of the biggest product agents or brand agents for QVC. And he said to me, Jen, these women have read your book, they've seen you speak, they're so inspired by you, they want to start a jewelry line with you. They're the largest jewelry manufacturer for QVC. And I said, well, I didn't even innovate anything in jewelry. Like, what would I do with it? That's a hard space to be in. It's like cosmetics. And so he said, just meet them. I don't really know what they want to do with you. So I go and meet them, and they have all my quotes put to jewelry. And I thought, I never thought to do that before, but that's awesome. I would love to do that. And they said, well, what would you call it? And I said, Empowered, because that's my mission. It's just to empower other people. And Empowered was born in that moment. I didn't set out to do it. It just came as an evolution of being open. The lesson is, as an entrepreneur, you have to be agile constantly. You have to be open constantly. You have to know when to bob and weave. You have to follow your intuition. Yes, your intuition is a critical thing. Every single business mistake I made was by me not following my intuition. By me knowing those people that were stealing from me, I knew on day one that there was something off. Although logically, they were the biggest in business in the industry. I knew that there was something off with them. And so I followed my intuition, Empowered started, PBS reached out to me at the same time. They wanted me to do an article, I did an article called Principles of Success Not Taught in School. That was supposed to be the subject of my PBS special. They saw the Empowered jewelry and then said, hey, we want to call it Empowered. I said, wow, okay. And then it hit me, this is becoming a movement. This whole thing is a movement, it's just not consumer products.
Global movement.
Global movement, correct. And so, as it became a movement, when you can create whatever you're doing, actually becomes a movement, so many people rally around you to support you in a way that you never thought. And so that's what happened with the PBS special. It became a movement, and then I realized this empowered movement had to be bigger than me. It wasn't just about me. I couldn't constantly carry the weight of this, but my power posse could help me carry the weight of this, and all the other women who have gone through similar struggles, they could help carry the weight of this. And so the technology strategy is really creating a platform that empowers women in a B2B way, empowering other women to build their platforms, and a B2C way, providing products to empower and inspire people to take their lives to the next level.
Last question for me before we open up to Q&A. Being an entrepreneur is tough. It's certainly not easy. What's your parting advice, if you had one bit of advice for all the entrepreneurs in the room?
Parting? That's a hard one. Honestly, the biggest lesson I learned, I just mentioned, was to trust your intuition. I can't emphasize that enough. Logic, your brain will talk you into all kinds of crazy things, and your ego will run that so much that you will lose sight with what you know is right and wrong. And I would say the biggest lesson I learned since 1995 being an entrepreneur was to trust my intuition. The other thing is more of a wisdom thing as an entrepreneur, and it's the biggest balance. People always say to me, how do you balance it between all these crazy businesses and your travel and being a mother? And that's an easy balance. That's easy for me. What's hard for me was learning when to push forward and let go and let the right time and people happen. So if you're an innovator, you're always a little bit ahead of the curve. And that's really frustrating. But, but I learned to take that as flattery, and I learned to let go and have multiple things going on at one time during that time period of maturation, to let the right people and things happen so that I'm not forcing things anymore with the wrong people at the wrong time. It works out so much better that way.
Can we give it a round of applause for Jen Gruber? Jen, on behalf of Benjamin's Desk and Startup Grind, thank you so much. I'm pumped up. I hope you guys are motivated, inspired. I hope you feel empowered. I have a few call to actions like I always do after a Startup Grind. One is, if you know someone seeking empowerment or purpose, send them to jengruver.com. She's doing amazing things in this industry, and it's worth following.
And check out the Best You Challenge if you want to be a part of that whole personal growth journey.
Gruver Media on YouTube as well. There's a ton of content. Join a community. There's a ton of awesome communities. We think we're building two here with Startup Grind and Benjamin's Desk. We're convening a conversation that's about how to make Philly great. And if you want to bump into people like Jen and Shelton on a daily basis, this is a good place to be, and it happens to be convenient. We're located at Main and Main here at 17th and Walnut, so come on by and stop in. Last thing here, what do I got? The last thing, there's college students in the audience today. Thank you, young Jen, again, for bringing your class. Thank you for reaching out from Villanova. To the college students and to every entrepreneur room, I want you to do one thing. This is my call to action, is whatever idea you have that you're working on, whatever startup, company, small business, whether it's just a task, a goal, a mission, whatever it is, tonight, do one step towards that goal, one step towards that startup. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, you know what, I'm going to log on and, you know, buy me a $45 WordPress template because I want to take the first steps to get my website up and running. Whatever it is, go home and take one step to achieve your goal. Thank you again for Jen, and thanks for coming out tonight.